people and just doing some research on Coach Rule. I had already known Coach Butler, and then Coach Mosey, who was already here, was down at my last spot with us, and he had nothing but great things to say about the place. And so when the opportunity started to kind of come about, it was something that I definitely wanted to look into, and glad that I made the decision to come here.
Addison, moving from Lincoln Journal-Star, you have some coordinator experience, obviously. What do you think you learned from that period, and what do you like about just focusing on the DBs now?
Well, the biggest thing is learning more about the big picture and understanding how everything fits together because at the end of the day, all 11 guys got to do their job or there's going to be a breakdown somewhere. And so just having that opportunity the last 2 years and then now coming here having the opportunity to step back and learn from Coach Rule, learn from Coach Butler, learn from Coach Snow, I think would be very, very beneficial towards the furtherment of my career.
Is there, Steve Sipple,
HuskerOnline. Has there been anything eye-opening about this roster, just the job in general, in your short time here?
It's a lot of young talent on this roster. They've done a really good job recruiting over the last few years. When you got guys that are big, you got guys that are fast. And I know I heard Coach Terry talking about the fundamentals of things. That's something that we're really, really harping on, and development of players and teaching guys how to play football. But I do think we have a good core of guys that we can develop.
Addison, Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. We got to hear from Coach Eckler and Coach Braden both about the influences that they had in their careers, you know, whether with Mike, with all the coaches he's been around, and of course the guys at the Chiefs with Terry. For you, who are some of those influences, you know, even back to your playing days and the guys that you had a chance to coach with?
I would say one, Steve Spurrier. He's been very influential from the time I was a player and even still, you know, having communication now. Also, Lorenzo Ward, who's now working at Clemson off the field, he was the one that actually got me into coaching. Similar, I did not know what I wanted to do when I was done playing. And it was one day we were on the practice field and he brought the conversation up, and I'm kind of like, I really don't know. Well, fast forward a year later, I was a graduate assistant at the University of South Carolina working under him as the coordinator. He's been very influential, and he's the guy that I always communicate with when it's a matter of taking a different job or another opportunity. Another guy I would say is Steve Wilkes. Steve Wilkes has been very influential in my career just from leadership standpoint, and I've never seen anybody command a room like he does. He does a really good job with that. He does a really good job with relationships, and that's something that I learned from him from his time with the Panthers and with the Arizona Cardinals.
You return a lot of guys that played snaps in that secondary. What do you know about that group right now? Just when you, Sean Callahan, by the way, HuskerOnline. What do you know about that group?
It's a talented group. We got a lot of guys with size and length in the room. It's not a very small room, which is good, you know, especially when you're playing man coverages and trying to defend the go ball a lot. And it's a lot of speed in that room. We actually just went over some of the catapult numbers yesterday, and it's a lot of speed in that room. So I'm excited to continue to work with them and build a player from the ground up for sure.
I think you'll be the fourth defensive backs coach in like 3 years.
That's correct.
Well, you have to earn guys' trust. I mean, they've had a bunch of different guys come through, all good guys, but, you know, different. How do you earn people's trust, and how do you maybe think about how to teach them when they've probably learned different techniques from different guys?
Right, and that's something that I put out in the forefront. I'm a guy that's very upfront with the guys, so there's something that I've talked to each and every one of them about. I'm not naive to that being the situation. I know I do got to come in and earn their respect, but I think it goes back to relationships, which is one of my core values, and I think that's one of the reasons that Coach Rule hired me here, because he's big on relationships, and that's what he wanted staff to be all about. And I think from that standpoint, and Rome wasn't built in a day, you know, so it's going to take time to build that trust and that relationship, but I think we're off to a good start thus far.
Generally speaking, when you're looking at defensive backs, what are the traits you look for in those guys?
So the biggest thing I'm going to look for length. I'm going to look for how explosive he is, meaning can he run, can he change directions, how well does he transition. I'm going to look for guys that are willing to be physical, because obviously in today's game it's so much perimeter passing game that you got to be able to make tackles. And then the last thing is guys' playmaking ability. I would say those are the main four things that I look for.
You got to spend a little time on the field with these guys before the Pinstripe Bowl, is that right?
Yes, I was kind of around watching though. It wasn't doing too much on the field with them, but I had.
You were at the game?
I was not.
Oh, you were not. Okay.
I was not, yeah.
One of the guys I wanted to ask you about who who showed up in that game we hadn't seen a lot of before. Donovan Jones, a young guy. Did you get a sense of what you have in him, and not to single him out too much, but somebody who emerged later in the season and made a splash in the last game?
Yeah, I believe he played more snaps in that game than he did all season on defense, and that was a name when I walked in the building. A lot of people were high on that he had been doing a good job during the season progression, and then also doing bowl practice. And he had a good few practices that I watched, and obviously did have a good game in the Pinstripe Bowl. And he's another guy that's big, he's physical, he can run, and he can play multiple positions in the secondary. So definitely excited to see his continued growth this spring.
Matt McMaster, 1620 The Zone. Coach, you've been a defensive coordinator before. How do you think having that 1,000-foot view of how a defense fully operates has helped you be able to become a better just